Hey guys, Phil/Polygoing here. Welcome to another roundtable discussion, this time on my channel. And the usual suspects with me, we got Justin, aka the Visionary. What's up, man?
What's up? I'm sad you didn't do the sup fools.
No, that was a one-time thing.
Damn.
That was a one-time thing. I've abandoned all attempts to garner any kind of street cred. That's not true, actually. That might come up over the course of this. I'm still trying. Still failing.
Looking forward to it.
But you know, improvement is never mind. We also got Lady Canton with us. How goes it?
It's going good, thank you.
Great. That is great to hear. And everybody feeling okay? Everybody feeling upbeat and positive? Ready to talk about some games?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So on this one, we're taking a little bit of a departure. I'm sure Souls may come up over the course of it, but we were thinking we would talk about games in general. Try and be a little bit silver liney and talk about good games and then kind of what makes a game good. And this will be kind of fun because it's totally subjective. This is just three people sitting around talking. Ain't nobody trying to make any cases or prove any points. It's completely subjective, and that's kind of it. Should be kind of fun. I'm really excited. I will say I'm kind of excited to see what comes up over the course of this. I'm very excited to see what you think, and I don't know. I think we should just get started. And I think we should go just jump right into around the horn of all the criteria, any criteria you can pull out of the fucking air. What, in your opinion, makes a game good? What makes a good game? Justin.
Story. More than story, characters, but characters, they kind of go hand in hand. But yeah, most important for me.
I would say, that's two things. I know you said they go hand in hand, but
it's kind of hard because my favorite type of storytelling is one that's where you get really immersed in the characters, and the characters, like, it's not so much about world building, about central plot, it's about personally the characters and how the story's told through them or him or her. So that's if we want to go like sub-genres of storytelling and stuff, I would say story overall, but story told by characters would be my favorite, I guess.
Okay, so like you get to know the characters, there's a lot of development, they might change over the course of it.
Yes.
Type stuff. Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, story sub-note characters. Ken, what about you?
I've been playing a lot of games that actually don't have a lot of story lately, and it's been surprising me because I usually really love stories. But I found that what's bringing me back to playing games that I played before, is replay value. Just consistent, there's something different to do every time you play through the game. You can play it through a different way. Something that, Souls and stuff was fantastically famous for. You can play through a million different ways with a million different self-made rules. And I found that that's basically what brings me back to a game. What makes it in my eyes a good game is the fact that I can play it again. Not to say that storytelling isn't something that's fantastic, because God knows I loved Beyond Two Souls, and that's pretty much just a 14-hour movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'd have to say though that replay value is definitely really high up there for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm with you on that one. We'll explore that. I was gonna say, I'm all about the next gen graphics. It's all about the graphics for me.
Are you really?
No, fuck no. Are you crazy?
Okay. Well, no, that's why I said, "Are you really?" and not, "Oh, I can see that."
No, yeah, totally. No, I do care about the graphics. We can talk about that maybe a little bit down the way, but I would say I'll go story, but since you already said that, I think one of the other things too is like just sort of like the feeling of the game, I guess, like a vibe type thing, like what the game feels like when you play it and sort of like the emotions it elicits in you.
I totally get that.
And I think that's kind of like in the same type of thing. That might come from the story. These are all interwoven. That might come from the story. It might come from, it might lead to replay value, especially if there's variation in it where you can experience different emotions over the time. But I feel like emotional content is one of my biggest draws in what makes a game good or what makes a game great. Like I love falling in love with games, like that emotional just attachment to it that comes from the way the game feels when you're playing it.
That would have been my second choice. I definitely know what you're talking about with that. I think that's sort of like an amalgamation of like how there's so many like contributing factors in that. Like there is story and character elements, there's world building elements, there's music, how that can affect it, or just the ambience in general.
Yeah. It's almost, and that's, you know, I will say that's almost like a bullshit answer too, because like in a lot of time, like the way the game feels is almost like just a fancy term for everything about it. It's a good story. It's the way it plays. If it feels really responsive and nice and just sort of, I don't know. That's kind of a cop out answer. It's sort of like, I like a game if the sum of all of its parts bring about a good emotional experience.
Well, no, I don't think that at all, because I mean, as long as we're in the realm of subjectivity here, I mean, like, the feel of the game doesn't mention anything about controls or the mechanical aspects.
Yeah,
of it. I mean, I could play, like, I mean, there's people, and I think, Canton, you're probably more on this side of the camp where you care about mechanics probably more than, at least I do, I know that, but maybe Poly, because I know, Poly, me and you come from like the, not obsessive, but like that sort of growing up with the Final Fantasy series that we had on that oval table discussion. So I kind of knew you were heading to the story direction in the first place, because people that are into Final Fantasy know how good stories can be if they get invested in that. Not that I think Final Fantasies are like the pinnacle of storytelling or anything, but you get my point.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a certain sort of sort of like an emotional bond. It's something numinous. It's like
wow.
That's
like
that's a $10 word.
Yes, it was. Holy Christ.
Well, no, it's like an awe-inspiring feeling. Like
yeah, totally.
It's fucking assholes.
No,
totally derailing.
No, that was great. Going highbrow in this motherfucker.
I only said that because like I had to think for a moment. Like I had to check my mental thesaurus and be like, what does that word mean again? All right. Okay.
Nice.
Continue.
But no, I mean, I think there's a certain joy while playing a game that you can get that isn't being attributed to actually moving your hands on the controller or the keyboard and mouse. Like it's something that is fulfilled through experience, and I don't know, like it. I mean, we can sort of,
experience is a great word. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can sort of go down the progression of this conversation talking about it, but like I really am excited to do this video because of what do you call it? Our Metal Gear Solid 5 just came out.
Okay.
And that has given me just all kinds of that essence of what you're talking about. And I mean, we can go around the horn and kind of move on, not just me ranting for 10 minutes like I normally do. I've been...
It's only been 10 minutes.
No, I know. I've been really conscious of the past few videos not to hog the mic, because I know there was a point in like the first like 5 we did where I'd be editing and it'd be just me talking for 8 minutes in a row. I'm like, oh my god, where can I cut myself out? I gotta shut up. So no, I mean, you guys can go ahead. Like we can talk about like the formula for it, like the sort of ratios, where how much story do you guys want? Like how much does each component matter to you, like mechanically and stuff? I mentioned mechanics and how it matters, sort of. I don't know. We can go to you, Ken, like since you're probably, I'm guessing, more on the mechanical side. Tell me if I'm wrong though. That was an assumption.
I would agree, actually. Like, I love my games that have a fantastic story. You know, I loved playing Beyond Two Souls. The feelings that I had when I first played Journey were
Oh God, yes.
astounding.
Great example.
Like,
Great example.
There was no dialogue in that game. There was fucking nothing. It was just music and experiencing a world that wasn't even that fantastically deep. It wasn't explained to you or anything like that. And I'm not saying that makes a story fantastic, but it made me feel things, which games don't usually have to do for me to classify them as being good.
Yeah. Can I mention a game that I think really embodies like that sort of vibe thing we're talking about is Shadow of Colossus.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. Like like as it goes on, you just get more and more melancholy and sad, and you're like that moment where it turns. The first Colossus you take down, and you feel like triumph. You're kind of like, yeah, badass. And then as you keep killing them, you start feeling guilty. And you start, oh my god, yes, it just.
Oh my god.
Well, another thing that I failed to mention was that sort of contributes to the vibe is color palette. I mean, if you look at Shadow of Colossus, like everything has just at least a slight shade of just gray to it. Like the saturation's just cranked the fuck down.
Sure.
I think that like that sort of bleak atmosphere. I think color contributes. I mean, bleak isn't sort of the vibe. I think that contributes to that particular vibe, but that can be something like. I mean, when you look at like I don't know if all of you guys played it, but Final Fantasy X, when you're in the oh god, the whatever plains, the big fucking grassy area, and you see just how fucking colorful it is, or like on Besaid Islands, like same thing, the foliage and all that stuff. I don't know, like there's a lot of, but I think like landscape, color palettes, the sort of state of affairs. Like if it's a nice building or ruins and everything's fucked up, then obviously those contribute to certain vibes, but that helps explain what I meant, so I had to interrupt. But no, go ahead here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Actually, it's Journey made me feel things, which was strange because I am very used to, in general, not feeling things when I play games. More just finding my own way to have fun in it, if you know what I mean. What I can think of is recently, I went back to playing the remakes of those old Pokemon games, and that was something that I played when I was quite young, and I didn't understand any of the maths behind it, and it was just kind of like, okay, I'll collect them all, fantastic, you know, get all the legendary Pokemon, woohoo! But it's great.
Lugia.
Woo! Catch them all, you know, watch along with the anime while you do it. Yeah, do it.
Oh
but
my god.
Going back to it now, it's kind of made me look up the science behind it, the maths, the things that people have nutted out over the past... Shit, how long has it been? Almost 20 years.
Yeah. That Dark Souls PvP mentality.
Yeah, and it was just like looking at all the numbers and everything that can affect everything, and there's this whole online meta that didn't fucking exist when I played, and it's been so interesting to basically jump back into something that was so familiar to me, but just it has that going back to it had that inherent, you know, this is my replay, this is something that I've sort of experienced with Souls. You know, you make a new build, well in Pokemon you make a new team and you see how that goes, and I'm not going to start nerding out about Pokemon or anything like that, because while some of it is fantastically complicated in the end, it is, you know, kind of a childish game. But it had that element of mechanics and replayability that I absolutely love. And it kind of follows through, too, for a game that I play a lot called The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, that I know the both of you probably know. But basically, Rebirth is a remake of the Flash version of the game, which ran horribly, but it had fantastic music, and it's a roguelike, so everything's procedurally generated, and it's just a twin-stick shooter. So on a basic level, it's very simple, but all the items that you can get. Originally it had like 100, and then it expanded to 197, then it expanded to 383 in Rebirth. And the way they affect your character is it all works together just so fantastically well, and it makes it different every time. But the game is really fucking ugly. Like, to me, like, I don't think it looks nice, like, at all. I really loved how the Flash version looked, but the remake looks horrible to me. I don't like it, like, one bit. But it's my second most played game on my Steam list. So, I just thought that was important to mention, that that's how far mechanics go for me. There's almost no story apart from, you know, you can read one Reddit thread on the lore and be like, okay, I get everything.
Right. Everything you need from the intro scene.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't know, like, mechanics just matter so much for me.
Well, now that you bring up that, like, from the sort of lens of Binding of Isaac, I finally understand why I can only play like 1 or 2 runs in a row. Because I really enjoy the game mechanically and some of the aesthetic bits, but I guess I finally realized how important story is to me. I think that's why I can only do 1 or 2 runs, is because all I have is mechanics to work with, essentially. But sorry, go ahead, Polly.
No, I was gonna say exactly the same thing. Like, it's I am not motivated by loot. I'm not motivated by getting stuff or finding stuff. I think, which is one of the reasons why I've never really gotten into MMOs. I've never really. I did try Binding of Isaac and thought it was, or Binding of Isaac Rebirth. And I thought it was cool and super fun, but I don't think for me, it's not something I could sit down and play for hours and hours and hours and hours. Just because it's cool to get some great power up, it's cool to get into anything, it's cool to find some great item or whatnot, but that is not something that compels me to keep playing. Whereas the story, or what the fuck is going to happen with this character, how is this person gonna, I think this guy's gonna die, and oh my god, are those two in love, what's happening?
Or personal investment.
Personal investment in the characters and the story in that case. And maybe tying back to like the vibe that comes out of it too. Whereas I feel, for me at least, in a lot of games that are sort of like a lot of the roguelike games, a lot of the loot-driven games where you have to grind, and sort of the joy comes from getting that piece of pure blade stone or whatever it is. Like, it just kind of, the joy I get from that is not as big a peak as the joy I get from, you know, saving a companion that I'm really invested in, or seeing a friend in the game die or something like that, like the lows, or it's not as wide a spectrum, if that makes sense.
Yep.
No,
and again, that's personal. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong.
Well, no, I hear what you're saying. Because I mean, there's I don't know, or no, I think, sorry, filler language here while I'm thinking. On the, I think it was the Oval podcast discussion thing we did.
The Final Fantasy one, yeah.
Yeah, where we're talking about Final Fantasy 9, and I was saying the ending of Final Fantasy 9 made me cry.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And it's that kind of investment that I look for, and you probably do, where you feel legitimately attached to characters, where you care about what happens to, and that's what I was trying to articulate with character-driven stories, where you're personally invested in them, and not so much the overall story, but how they make their way through it. That's really like the core of what I like.
Yeah.
Like that's why as much shit as the sort of Lightning saga of Final Fantasy gets, I love Lightning as a character, and her sort of way. Even though 13.2 is my favorite, and you don't play as Lightning, but you kind of blah blah blah.
Sure.
I think it's cool to watch, like, the overall thing not revolve around Lightning, but I mean, in a sense it kind of does, but her as a constant through what's happening around her, and that is fucking cool. And I mean, it grows cooler the more you are attached to a character or invested in their interests or whatever. But pretty bitchin', man.
Yeah. Yeah, shame about Lightning Returns, though.
I know. I was hoping it was gonna be like a Devil May Cry fucking Metal Gear Rising thing. That would have been so good.
Yeah, I never even tried that one.
Oh,
Don't.
Okay.
Well, I subjectively wouldn't recommend it, you know.
I really like 13-2. Well, see, this is the thing. I think getting back to like the ratio of how everything works. See, I don't like the mechanics of 13-2. I'm okay with 13, and I kind of actually like the mechanics of 13-2, but I don't like 13's Lightning Returns' mechanic, the third one. But I will sit there and play through mechanics that I think are terrible because of the story, because of the character. That's how much story and characters trump mechanics to me. I will play through a quote-unquote bad game just to find out what happens.
Sure.
And not just because I'm curious, because like I need to know. Like it matters to me. It changes my headspace.
Yeah, it's like abandoning a book halfway through. It's you don't do it. You're invested at this point. There comes a point playing through this stuff where you get hooked and you start to really care about the characters. And I'm thinking about, like, we keep calling out Final Fantasies. That same thing happened to me in 8. Like, the first time I played 8, I played it for, I don't know, maybe 10 hours and just hated the shit out of it. Like, just loathed it. And I was like, this is the end of the series for me. I'm fucking done. And then I played 9, and that was wonderful. Got totally attached to Zidane, and Dagger and stuff like that, and he tears off the cloak at the end. That was great, and I was like, alright, maybe there's something to this love story. If 8's supposed to be a love story, let's go back and give it another try. Maybe I was a little bit older, maybe I was a little bit wiser, maybe I just had more time on my hands or whatnot. But it's sort of like, as Squall warmed up to Renoa, I got super invested in like their relationship, and I was like, I'm gonna see this shit through. And then I just binged on the game for about 2 days just to see the end of it. And I didn't care about like maxing out characters or anything out. I think that's the only one I have not gone back and replayed, mainly because I just wanted to see how it ended. Like, I finished the game with not good gear. I didn't do any grinding. I didn't try and find. I don't even remember what the system was in terms of leveling up or upgrading your characters, in terms of like materia, or I don't even remember how it works. I don't care. I just remember that like I was so enthralled by their story that it was just, there's no way I was not going to finish that game.
Yeah. Well, I think sort of like departing from the story elements of that, I think just kind of moving on, another one that, because segueing off of Final Fantasy, another sort of component that really matters to me is style. And what I mean by style is I forgot that this thing existed till last night when it was in my related videos, and it's been ages since I've watched it. But have you guys ever seen Dead Fantasy?
No.
The thing directed by Monty Oum, the creator of Ruby and whatever. He died like a year ago or something.
No.
Worked at Rooster Teeth.
I haven't at least.
Dead Fantasy is like someone took fucking what do you call it? The movie maker, and put like a bunch of Final Fantasy characters versus a bunch of Dead or Alive characters.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, and just and the thing I was sort of getting to with style is an element of style that I just adore is fight choreography and sort of like attack animations and things like that. That's why I like things like Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, and Metal Gear Rising and stuff. It's because they're a spectacle to watch. Like you get to see, like, if you sort of translate that into a shooter, it kind of becomes like those Michael Bay moments where there's just things blowing up fucking everywhere and slow motion happening. But I think in more of the sword and board type environment, like those things can be really cool.
Sure.
Like Devil May Cry, like that kind of fight choreography is and stuff. Like cutscenes, like people whine about cutscenes and stuff being too long. Like I was that guy in Metal Gear Solid 4 being like, I need more cutscenes.
Yeah.
So I know we can go on about style if you guys like. I know that was an important one to me.
I would lump that in with vibe. So, I already called that one out.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think vibe has, like, I don't think style's attributed to emotion, though. I think style's attributed to just visuals, and you're sort of like, oh, shit, like, that was, like, sort of like if you're sitting next to a friend, like, split screening or whatever the fuck, you guys both go, holy shit, did you see that? Like, the first time when you're playing Gears of War and you chainsaw somebody, that kind of, whoa, did you fucking see me saw through that guy?
Yeah, that's kind of where graphics start to matter as something that like draws you into a game. If something is meant to make you feel that way, then having it look really fucking good is a really nice way to approach it. Because if it's something that the older type of games that you can play don't do very well, it's like making things happen on like a more grand scale, like have huge explosions or tragedies or things that you can write about and you can read and you can imagine, but when you're given like a visual medium, like a video game, and it's like a 16-bit thing and a couple of pixels move to the right and then some red and yellow pixels burst out from a 8-bit building, and you're like, oh, I guess the building exploded.
Right.
But then in a game that's come out more recently, you're walking down the street and you've got that shaky camera angle going with the artificial like lens thing that they can do now, which is really cool. And you look up at the building and suddenly it explodes and the screen shaking and the camera falls to the ground and rattles, and it matters. To a certain degree when you're trying to invoke that kind of feeling.
Yeah, it matters on a supplementary level, I think.
Yeah.
Like it just makes like the core bit that much better.
Yeah, and it's a reason why games like Devil May Cry and spectacle games like that just couldn't exist back then. It's because you didn't have the area to work in, technologically. Like you couldn't make something that complicated because the technology just couldn't handle it, or if the technology could handle it, it just looked confusing as fuck and it didn't give the feeling that you wanted it to give.
Yeah, I think before that era, when like Devil May Cry started going the spectacle route, I think it's sort of like the origin was from like where games used to be action platformers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So okay.
Like Legacy of Kain or something.
Legacy of Kain, yeah.
Like some sort of hybrid like that, yeah.
Have you noticed, like, if you go back to play Devil May Cry 3 or something like that, or Devil May Cry 4 even, you remember all of the great things about it. It's so spectacular, it's so stylish, and it's so responsive, and it's just a fantastic fighter. But then you run into the fucking puzzle. And you're like, and you're like, why do I have to align all these fucking glyphs? Why do I have to push this spinning top from room to room? Why do I have to do anything that is not killing things?
Right, right.
Because that's what this game does so well.
Yeah, I remember being pissed at that when it happened in God of War when I played that after Devil May Cry, and then I remember even before that being pissed at all the Final Fantasies for doing that shit. All the puzzle shit in Final Fantasy. I'm not a puzzle guy. I'm just not a puzzle guy, and I fucking hate it. Talking about like subjective sort of immersion breaking stuff.
Totally.
I fucking hate that. Like,
I am completely with you.
The worst part of 10 was when you're in that what is that called? The trial of something,
one of the
something trials.
The Cloister of Trials.
That's it. That's
between all of the summons before you get all of them. Yeah.
I fucking hate that shit.
Do you remember the ice one? I remember
Shiva?
The ice one. Yes.
Oh, yeah. It was horrible.
I was gonna say, like, regarding puzzles, I don't think there has ever been a console game that I've played where I've enjoyed puzzles. But somehow, like, when I play through PC, like Infinity Engine games, like Pillars of Eternity recently, and like the Baldur's Gates and shit like that, I actually really like the puzzles because they're like long stretching gather clues type things. It's not just unlock this to move forward. It would be almost a supplemental thing, like unlock this to get some badass sword, or unlock this to get some, ridiculous access back door so that you can sneak up on the mini boss or something like that. I actually really like that stuff because it seems a lot more integrated into the world when the world is much larger and more open and deeper. But like in terms of progress through the game puzzles, yeah, I just hate that shit. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
I was thinking. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just thinking Devil May Cry 3 is especially guilty of just, oh, you just got done with a really awesome boss battle. Here's a room where if you fail the jumping puzzle, you arbitrarily have to do it all over again from the very beginning. Enjoy that 2 minutes of your life that you just lost, and oh, you fell down again. I'm sorry.
Now we're gonna slow things down. Yeah, I don't know. I like thinking about style too. So this is jumping back a little bit ago. I think in terms of the spectacle of things, I am a little bit personally. I'm a little bit less impressed with like the explosions and graphical stuff that way. Like, I mean, I like shit blowing up as much as the next guy in Die Hard Rules and all that kind of thing. But what really does it for me in terms of style is the way people move. Like, there's something so cool and slick and just that hooks you when you come across a game where people move in a certain way that is not quite like, I hate realism in games. I don't want to be a GI running around in World War II in like realistic combat and crap like that. Give me like slightly elongated limbs that move in a little bit of a flowing serpentine pattern. Like, I just love sort of an exaggerated style of movement in the characters, and I love just kind of seeing something that's a little bit off but is just mesmerizing in the way that people go across the screen. That's what really does it for me in terms of style.
I think I know sort of like where I stand on that with like what I like stylistically with anime.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's very anime, yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain pose that anime, like, strong people
where it's like,
do.
You have your shoulders back. I love the super... No, sorry, go ahead.
Like, I think you were getting to it. I think you were about to say shoulders back, but I'm talking the shoulders forward and the head down.
Totally.
And the limp arms and then instantaneous, like, almost teleporting movement.
That is it. It.
Yeah, I love that, and then immediately after the quick movement, slow motion to the destination.
Totally. What really...
Like that, yeah.
Like, I think...
That's where I get it.
I think one of the first things... This isn't one of the first things, but I mean, it's one of, like, one of the guys that immediately pops to my mind. I'm not a big fighter guy, but, like, Iori from King of Fighters has kind of that thing going on. Like, his arms are super long, and just sort of like the way he moves compared to everybody else. It's like some of his limbs are moving faster than others, so it's almost like they drape behind him during certain animations and stuff like that. And it's mesmerizing.
Yeah, I love that. I think like the really inhuman sort of movements where it looks like they don't have joints kind of help. Like, if going off of fighters, like if you guys ever played Soul Calibur and remember Valdo, he was sort of he was like he was my main, and he had the most awkward serpentine like movements and just inhuman, but it looked really cool. I mean, like, never mind the snake like sort of resemblance, but just the I don't know, just it looks so fucking slick, just like the agility. I think like going to sort of like staying on topic with what makes a game good and stuff and subjectivity and all that, I like my favorite sort of play style within games is the agility style. Like, I will always pick the thief or the archer or the fast one or the thin one. I always like thin characters if there's someone buff or overweight or whatever. Like, I always pick the slimmest one I could find, preferably female, because they look cooler and the long hair aesthetic is very nice to me. But like, that's if I could have sort of everything I've mentioned so far in one game, that'd be amazing. Like, thanks, GG. Like, here's $60. Thank you.
that kind of element of style, it doesn't just apply to video games. It applies to anime and
Totally.
just art in general is very big on this. Like I used to watch a guy named Sakura on YouTube, and he does a bunch of drawing tutorials, but he also does these like mini podcast things where he sits down and he talks with people about elements of style and how he perceives art. And it sounds really wanky, and it kind of is, but it's a cool experience because he explains stuff like what we allow ourselves to see as being cool without like while simultaneously knowing that this cannot happen in real life. Like you see a video game design character of, let's just say, Kratos from God of War.
Right.
He is ridiculously buff. He's so wide. He's twice as wide as a normal person is, but his waist is like smaller than.
Yeah, he wears a size 24 pant.
Yeah, pretty much. Like he's completely disproportionate, but somehow he still looks, subjectively, he looks good. Like they wouldn't choose him as this video game character if he didn't look good doing the things that he's doing, because he's pulling heads off gods and doing all this masculine type shit, and it doesn't look wrong when he's doing it. It doesn't look like someone drew something wrong or modeled something wrong. And it's the same with like Waldo. The way he moves is wrong. Like a person can't do that.
Right.
Bones don't do, the ligaments don't allow you to do that kind of thing, but it works. Sakura, he talks a lot about that kind of stuff, and it's made me understand why I like certain things, even though they don't make sense. Like I like the very simple kind of childish art style that they've taken on for the more recent Pokemon games. There's just like the character art and everything. They have this one artist that does everything, like for all the trainers that you battle, and it's all so cohesive, and you know that it's a Pokemon game because it looks this way. But people aren't built that way. People aren't that thin. People aren't that elongated. People just don't move in the way that they move in those games. But it still looks great, and I think it adds to being a good game. I think. I don't know. It was kind of a ramble, but I don't know.
No, you're good.
That was cool to me.
And I think that's one of the things that makes it so cool. Like the fact that it's a little bit off. There is an element of like the not right. Almost, it's not supernatural, but it's not supernatural in terms of spirits and spooks and shit like that, but above what is natural. Like there is something to it that isn't quite right or physically possible or the way that it's supposed to be.
Sorry. No, I
Hairball.
You're right.
I took a drink, but I wanted to chime in. Apparently at the same time. No, I was gonna say superhuman. I think would be kind of where you were going with that.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna stick with supernatural.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, so let's take this then. Like, so we've got. It didn't seem like anybody was really into graphics aside from cutscenes and maybe some integration with style. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Like as this is the great what? Maybe.
Okay. I don't think it's necessary, but it really, really supports what is necessary.
Sure.
It's a really good foundation. Like you can't go wrong if you just have really good graphics.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
So it's sort of okay. So it's like if you have bad graphics, it's something that you have to overcome elsewhere. Whereas if you start with good graphics,
you can build on top of that.
From there. Okay.
Which is like why when people look at games like Crysis or the Crysis series, they go like, "Wow, that looks fantastic."
But no one plays it.
But it's kind of shit. Like the story wise and character wise and just lore wise in general, it's not a good game, but it's got a really good graphical foundation.
Sure.
Like, I enjoy playing those games, like, for the most part, because it looks so amazing. But if they didn't have that, like, what else would there be? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
It would just be Doom.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I just thought of that's super important, and it wasn't even sort of in that type of category to like what makes a game good and stuff. Sort of, it might be a subcategory, I don't know. Is customization. Like the more things I can customize in a game, oh my god! Like that's sort of like the essence and nature of RPGs.
Well, so now. Okay, so what? To clarify that, customization in terms of what, like crafting, or
no,
customization
no.
in terms of characters, or like what?
No. Well, okay, no. Characters, maybe like costumes or outfits or something.
Okay.
I really hate the create a character and it's like fourth wall. It's you. You can make your own story. I personally hate that.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
What do you call it? Well, because like real quick, not to deviate too much. I like my sort of approach to a story is this exact same way I'd approach a book. Like I'm not looking to insert anything. I want to get what the essence of the author, puts there. I want to.
It's a narrative.
See the story.
Yeah,
exactly.
I got you.
Exactly.
I got you. Then that makes perfect sense. That's not interesting at all. I mean, it is interesting. It's not weird at all. That makes perfect sense. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, not the character, but like it, just like out to the audience, and I know you guys relate. Like Dark Souls wise, like builds, stats, and weapons and things like that. A game I've been playing relentlessly, putting as much time as I can, which isn't as much as most people. Metal Gear Solid 5 just came out, and the weapon customization and the buddy system they have in there, and like that was why or not why, but that was one of the primary reasons why I used to be a COD kid, was the attachments and the perks and the customizable kill streaks and the just making what you're playing your decision down to like the fucking nano-nth of every single mechanic. Like it's that sort of, or like did you ever play Champions of Norath, Realms of EverQuest? It was one of those type like MOBA, old school. It was on PS2, I don't know, but it's in the sort of like Diablo-esque.
Yeah, I never did, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, it's one of those like you equip your gear, the gear has stats, the blah blah blah, like all that stuff. Like I love that, love it.
You know what I really like about that is almost like yes, that's super cool, and I'm in total agreement. I really like sort of the byproduct of that, like one of the things that I think makes a really fantastic, like a great game, not even a good game, is sort of like its infectious nature, the way that you think about it like when you're not playing it at work, or walking your dog or whatever mundane task you're doing, you're thinking about it. You're thinking about how could I do this differently? How could I do this in a slightly different way? Is there an alternate route to get here? What happens if I don't do this? It's in your brain. You're thinking about it when you're not playing it, and you've got all these different things to try and experiment with, which I think that customization is the absolute core foundation of, in terms of, you can do that in the storytelling. It could be non-linear storytelling in terms of customization, the path through it. It could be customization.
Like Mass Effect,
totally. Yeah, absolutely. And just sort of that way that it gets under your skin and makes you wonder, what if this was different? I'm going to try this way instead of that. Oh, that was terrible. I'm going back. And like the customization leads to sort of those sparks in your head. It captures your imagination and gets you thinking about it and gets you wondering about it. And it's sort of, I don't know, it really, really stays with you. And I think that's super cool.
It sort of causes like this self-reflection where you care about it even when you're not playing it.
That's the biggest thing.
I totally get that, yeah.
Yeah, I would think.
I completely agree.
So, I mean, we can talk about like dissecting every mechanic and how it matters to a game, but do we have any games that we didn't expect to like that surprised us?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't have one ready. Do you have one ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it, and that'll give us time to think.
Metal Gear Solid.
Really?
Yeah, because I played the first one like a long ass time ago. And I didn't really like. I always liked the characters. Like Metal Gear Solid is a good example where I like the characters, but don't really care too much about like the overall story. And also a good example of how characters tell a story rather than world building and shit.
Sure.
But I didn't start liking the games like obsessively until Metal Gear Solid 4, and at that point I'm like, okay, I played 1, 2, Snake Eater, and now 4, just because it's like I love third-person shooters. Like I don't know if that's
Cool.
like
Yeah.
common knowledge, because like nothing but RPGs on my channel basically. And Metal Gear Solid 4 used to be my favorite game of all time. I know, like, every time Metal Gear Solid 4 comes up, I harp on it for fucking 10 minutes straight, and you guys get bored. But it not only did I not expect to like it as much as I did, but I didn't expect to just have it fucking take me over, like, with how much I liked it. Like, I went, like, the route of, like, Dark Souls PvP. Like, just dissecting every little bit about every character, about every gameplay mechanic, about the percentage of, like, your camouflage dropping if you were in a certain tile set, a certain amount of light, a certain blah blah blah. Just Metal Gear Solid 4 was the only game that not only did I care about the story, I loved the mechanics. I replayed multiple times, but I actually, like, challenged myself. Like, I'm one of those guys that, like, puts in a game. If there's a difficulty option, I'm picking easy, because I just want to, like,
I'm there.
Yeah, I want to see what happens, because I'm there for the story. But Metal Gear Solid 4 remains the only game where I've been like, okay, I beat it on this, let's crank up the difficulty.
Sure.
And I used to take screenshots of, like, my end, like, game, like, at the very end of the game, how fast I could do it. I ended up with, like, under 4 hours, no kills, without being spotted. Like, blah, 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 all, like, the high... I think I just hit my mic, my bad.
Sorry.
But, like, all the high achievement stuff. And that was, like, the only game where I actually cared about that. And it sort of, like, it fired off on all cylinders. Like, it just blew me away. Like, every single thing about it. And that's, like, super subjective. Blah, blah, blah. That's the nature of this whole thing. But that was, like... When people talk about, like, the 10 out of 10 nonsense, like, that was seriously, like, the perfect game in my eyes. Like, I loved that game. And it was a really, like, profound experience, because I didn't expect for it to be anything special at all. Like, I didn't dislike it. I didn't come in with, like, a preconceived notion that, like, I'm not going to like it, but I'm just like, holy fuck, what is this? Like, this is... Because it was the first one also utilizing, quote-unquote next gen, like, it was on PS3.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of like that kind of showing off. It was almost a launch title as well. I think it came in June 2008. PS3 launched in 2007, I think. So it was sort of like the coming off the hype of PS3 and, like, how good graphics were getting and stuff, and then to be just hit in the face with this game and loving it as much as I did, that was, like, a huge deal. It changed, like, my whole perception of games too. Like, I realized, like, how much they can affect me, like, not just in mood and stuff, but, like, how much, like, I think there's a point where, like, you don't play games as a hobby anymore. Like, your hobby becomes you. You know what I mean? Like this, like, it's not like, oh, sometimes I play games because it's fun. It's like, no, I play games to have fun.
Sure.
Yeah. I've
like
kind of had that experience myself. I've been like, where the fuck would I be if I didn't think and play about video games as much as I do?
Mm-hmm.
What would I be thinking? Like, who would I know? What would I be doing? You know, I have no idea. Because this hobby has just become a part of me that's so large, and just, it's inseparable at this point. Like, I will always think back to now, because it's been the past 15 years of my life. You know, like, I've been playing video games for that long that I've been doing it for more time than I haven't been.
I think that's the operative word right there, is inseparable. Like that point when it comes like, no, this is me.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I've got a game. If I can do mine.
Yeah, man. Yeah, take it.
All right. Well,
So-
it's not as profound as yours. Sorry, what, Polly?
No, I was gonna summarize. So, okay, now you said you were lukewarm. Jump back for just a second. Lukewarm on 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 turned you. Okay. And now it's your favorite franchise of all time. Okay.
Okay. Well,
Miss Canton, go ahead.
my game was not as like transformative, but it was still fucking unexpected. I played Hitman Absolution, which was not something that I expected to like.
I don't even know which one is that in the series. I kind of fell out of it.
Like, they made like Hitman, and then they did something Blood Money, and there were a bunch of games, but it was like the new one that they started to make. You know, after they made Blood Money or whatever it was, and they took a long break. And they finally decided to make a new one, and Absolution was the one that came out. And it was, you know, next gen. It was on Xbox 360 and PS3, and it looked really great. And I started playing it not expecting to like it very much. My sister and her husband picked it up and brought it back, and I played a bit of it, and it took over me. And it was really strange, because I played it for like a month straight. I finished the story, I thought it was great, but then I went back and I did the thing where I tried to do it all perfectly without being seen. I only killed using the piano wire, the garrote thing.
Sure.
I did that game perfectly, and I competed in the online leaderboards that it had, and I was really good at that game. It was so strange because I did not expect one bit for Hitman to take me in. And it was funny because I'd sit there being like, this game is fucking it's great. Like this, I don't even like shooters all that much, you know. And this has kind of drawn me into this third person like assassination perfection type thing. I don't get it.
That's really weird, because Metal Gear, Hitman, and one of my other, like probably my second favorite franchise, Splinter Cell, they're all stealth action games.
Yeah.
I think it's like a really
I'm
weird
going there too
coincidence.
with my answer. So I mean,
Oh.
bated breath.
Yeah.
What is it? Siphon Filter?
Oh no.
Well, I just had this experience with it. I was like, this is a fantastic game. Why aren't more people talking about this? Because I hadn't played the previous Hitman games.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went online, all I saw was, oh, it's not as good as Blood Money. I wish it was like Blood Money. I wish it was amazing like Blood Money.
That's
Money
still
was
the
fantastic.
prevailing opinion.
You know, and it's still the huge, like, people love Blood Money, and they will never stop loving it. And I will not say that Blood Money is a bad game. It's just that when you go back to play it, it's dated. It feels dated. Like, I understand. It feels dated the same way that Devil May Cry feels dated sometimes when you go back to play it, because you're like, wow, I forgot about puzzle jumping sections, you know, just that bit that makes you go, oh, right, they hadn't figured out, you know, a great way to communicate vision cones and stuff, and I just...
Yeah.
It was like that for me. And that kind of translated from Hitman to Splinter Cell Blacklist, which...
Really? Blacklist?
I don't even know that one. I did not follow the Splinter Cells.
That's alright, there's like 50,000 of them.
There's 5 or 6, I think.
It's a Tom Clancy thing, right?
It's a Tom Clancy thing.
Yeah, Tom
whereas Canton's going on Blacklist, my sort of like where I got like that wow moment was Conviction. But go ahead. Because yours was like a really turning a real turning point in the series where like Michael Ironside wasn't Sam Fisher's voice actor anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
Ironside
Michael
was like,
Ironside was,
dude.
wow.
Oh my God, you have not lived until you
Fucking
played Conviction.
Jester voicing the, wow.
With Michael Ironside, it's he's my favorite voice actor. Like any character, like I like characters more, but characters who match their voice actor, like Michael Ironside, Sam Fisher, holy shit.
Wow.
Like, fuck. So good. Go ahead, I'm interrupting, I'm an asshole.
Like, see, because I didn't play, like, I played the previous Splinter Cells, but it was kind of in that phase of my life where I played video games, and I was like, I'll play Splinter Cell. Played it for an hour, didn't really think it was that great, put it down forever. You know, I played Chaos Theory, played it for 2 hours, didn't really think it was all that great, put it down, because I didn't understand it, and I was very immature, and, you know, just my realization that different styles of games can be fun for different reasons, and I just didn't stick around long enough to find it out. So I didn't get attached to the story, I didn't really know who Sam Fisher was, I had no attachment to Michael Ironside being the voice of Sam Fisher, so when I played Blacklist, I really appreciated it from a purely mechanical point of view, and I thought that game looked great, and I thought it played great, and it was one of those games that took over my life for like 3 weeks. I played it, and I perfected it, and I did it all without getting alerted, even the bits that people on forums were being like, it's impossible to do this bit without being seen or without getting it lethal, you know, like, they set you up here and you're practically in the line of sight or whatever, and I'm like, nah, man, if you restart 55 times, you can get the AI to glitch out, you can do it non-lethal.
No, man, I stare from 17 that shit.
Yeah. It's funny, you mentioned him actually, because I did watch some of his walkthrough videos for it, and some of the bits where I had a ton of trouble, he's just like, he's talking about something else, and he does it perfectly, and I'm like, my AI does not work the way yours does. Yours does this, I'm so jealous.
I love that guy. Yeah. He gets so lucky. Everything's science.
Yeah. That was my thing. Like, I did not expect to like Hitman, and I really didn't expect to like Splinter Cell, because I'd played the previous ones, and they just didn't grab me. But now I'm feeling like I should go back, but also I'm having that same fear of like playing the new Devil May Cry and then being like, I really like this, I'm gonna go back and play the previous Devil May Cries, oh god, jumping puzzles, you know. I feel like there's gonna be that sort of a moment when I play Splinter Cell where it's like, yeah, no, there's this thing that everyone loves to forget about telling you that's awful about the game. You know, and they tell you to go back and play Chaos Theory, which is apparently one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my thing.
Interesting.
Just a quick note, I mentioned like Michael Ironside, and I know like the Metal Gear Solid franchise is known for like some of the voice actors and stuff. Like recently Kiefer Sutherland's like voiced Snake in the new one now. What do you call it? I just have to like Adam Jensen, guys. Like I get really attached to like good voice actors on characters that I like, because Elias Toufexis, Adam Jensen, like that's just another example that I just have to shout out there. Deus Ex Human Revolution. Holy fuck.
That was Adam Jensen?
Adam Jensen,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Like, oh my god, that guy's voice is not even put on. Like, that's just normal. I think we mentioned this in the last
just him talking.
Discuss. Yeah, that's just like him shooting the shit.
He's got a cool voice. It's like unbelievably edgy. Like if he asked you something at a nightclub, you'd be like, what movie are you from?
And what am I doing at a nightclub?
This is fucking Sin City.
Why did I call it a nightclub?
Why am I at a nightclub? I never asked for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Go ahead, Polly. I interrupted. Yet again.
No, it's fine. I'm gonna tell the same story. Like it's kind of a weird one, but it was like I remember the James Bond game Nightfire on the on GameCube. Yeah, dude. So really? And it was, I remember like I fucking hate the shit out of first person shooters. Like I hate them. I will almost not play a game ever if it's in first person. I want to see the person. I hate it.
I am with you. I don't hate first person, but I definitely like all the value is placed on like the aesthetic value of seeing your character.
I want to see my character run around. But anyways, so I had a little bit of experience with GoldenEye on the N64, and that was always fun to do like the split screen with buddies and stuff like that. But I didn't have an N64, so I never got into it. And I got a GameCube and picked up Nightfire and was thinking like, yeah, this is gonna be one of my like back at the drawer games for when people come over. We can play this and split screen. It'll be fine and fun. But playing it, for whatever reason, I just got really into it, and I think that was the first time too, like you were talking about like perfecting a game. That was the first time where I ever ratcheted up the difficulty run after run after run and tried to get all of the achievements and tried to really max the thing out. That's maybe one of the only games I've ever done too where like I've done like challenge runs or something like that, just kind of fucking around with the weakest weapons I can find and things like I don't know, there was just something about that game. I bet if I went back and played it today I would hate it. I'd have fond memories but would not enjoy it. But at the time it was just something that got under my skin. Like I could not sleep until I got that, you know, third achievement or whatever it is. When you grab your little spinning Nightfire icons, I don't know, it really got to me, and it was really, really important to me to get this game at 100% completion.
Well, since you say that, and now that all three of us have said it, I wonder if like the self-accomplishment is playing like a way bigger factor than we realize, with the fact that like we all challenged ourselves to like 100% it or whatever. Like get the best score we can get. I'd never even considered that, but given that we all three of us said the same thing.
Yeah, I think the only other game I have ever platinumed, I think, was Demon Souls, and that was really important to me to do too, because I wanted to get. It was achievable. You didn't have to go to, you know, NG plus 3 or whatever the fuck it is if you wanted to get certain gear. But I mean, I think that's the only other game I've ever platinumed. Not even the Dragon Age ones, which I got super into.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where it was really important to me to see this through as much as possible. And same thing, like that's really one of the only games where I've ever done anything remotely resembling a challenge run. That was kind of out of the blue for me too, because it was very much like playing RPGs on easy, because it was all about the story, it was all about seeing how things played out. And then to have this game come up where the basic premise of it is like, I'm going to kick your ass until you get it, and then you're going to feel really good. And I was like, that sounds terrible. But somehow playing through it was like, oh, you're right. I do feel pretty good. Now I'm going to go do... And it just, I don't know. It was just... I think there is something to the self-accomplishment thing. Maybe you nailed... Maybe you solved the puzzle right there. Okay. So we were talking about like what is good. We've covered that. We've talked about surprises. What about the other way? What about like something where you think that you're gonna like a game, but there's something about it that is just so fucking wrong and broken that you say like, I can never get over this one thing. Like what's the opposite of? We'll get a little negative. What is the opposite of, you know, story or replay value or emotional content? Like what is the thing that you just cannot get past? What will completely destroy your enjoyment of a game? Ken, start with you. We'll go the opposite direction.
Like right now,
Go for it.
I fucking hate it when a game treats me like I'm 5.
Oh, interesting. You were just talking about Pokemon.
I know.
Meaning what? I'm not sure.
When a game treats me like I'm 5, like when I play a Nintendo game, and I know I do play Pokemon and stuff, but it's a lot less condescending than so many of the Zelda games that I have tried to play.
Interesting.
They just this whole full-blown Technicolor, everything's made of plasticine and puppies, and you know, here is your sword. You can kill stuff with it by pressing A.
Yeah.
It's not like in a tutorial sense.
I just hate like the entire game that I've seen play. Like I've seen countless Zeldas actually being played all the way through.
Wow.
By streamers and let's players and I don't mind watching someone play through it because they can kind of make fun of it, and you know, I like knowing what's going on. But
Yeah.
I cannot stomach when a game is like, you clearly don't grasp basic shit in games. Like, I am going to tell you that you need 3 seeds to trade for a bomb that for some reason I only have, and I'm going to give you a sword. It's pointy and it's really good at killing stuff. Didn't you know? And
Yeah.
I know that games like Zelda are really good at doing that, and Mario as well. Some
Yeah, I was
some
gonna
of the
say,
Mario
like,
games.
Super
they're-
Mario World is like so childish in its tone. I keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they just annoy me because they I know they're marketed towards a younger generation, but I also see people that are as old as me or older than me enjoying it so much, and just like it does not faze them one bit, and I'm like, why doesn't this annoy you? I really don't like it. And when I play games like the most recent Pokemon games that have come out, it's there to an extent. Like, it has a small element of tutorialization. Like, if you've never played one of these games before, you may not know that the essence of the game is to collect, and this is how you catch a thing. And some of the dialogue is like really basic, but for the rest of the game, it pretty much just leaves you alone. Like, the game just takes off the training wheels, and it's like, okay, go do your own thing. I'm not gonna mind until, you know, the next story point.
Sure.
And with Zelda, it just feels like, and games like that, and Mario, it just feels like it's holding your hand every step of the way, and not necessarily that it's easy, because I've played Zelda and I've played Mario, and I'm shit at Mario. I'm awful at Mario. But that kind of tone just, it really bugs me, and if I go into a new game and it has that kind of tone, I am instantly turned off and I just cannot play anymore. And it's really sad because I know that I'm probably missing out on a lot, but I just don't like it when something treats me like I'm 5. Even if
Yeah.
it's marketed towards 5-year-olds, you know?
Well, one thing about like that aspect of the sort of like tutorial nature of what you don't like is sort of like the explicit versus the implicit with storytelling that I don't like. That can kind of be like, I don't like. I like implicit sort of subtext to stories. I mean, this isn't my point, but just going off of what you said. I don't like it when everything is like about a character, let's say, is told through dialogue in that same sense. Like, it's sort of a tutorial about a character or about the world. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's that same hand-holding feeling with like, this is why this happens. This is why, like you're reading a textbook almost.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. I totally hear what you're saying, but like in a different aspect.
I don't know, it just completely kills it for me. Like, it's the reason why I can't play most Nintendo games. Like, anybody you talk to that knows me in real life or has talked to me online or whatever, they will say, never heard Ken say anything good about a Nintendo property, like, unless it's playing Pokemon or whatever. And I don't know, it annoys me so much.
I also hate Nintendo, by the way, so points.
I don't think. Okay, wait. I don't think I get it. I don't think I'm following. So is it just the tutorial stuff? Like,
No,
it's like
not-
if it's
not
an in-game tutorial thing, or I don't think I'm following. Maybe I'm being dense. I'm probably being dense.
I think it's just the hand-holding nature of like, when something is explained to you, your reaction isn't, oh yeah, I get it. It's no fucking shit, game.
Yeah,
I get it.
like, this is a shield. It is meant to protect you, you know. And I just, it makes me cringe because whenever I play a game like any RPG or like anything that's Souls or even Dragon Age or Devil May Cry or whatever, you get a new weapon or something, and it's like, this is a weapon, and you're like, thank you, game, for the information. But it doesn't talk down to you like that. You're left to decide what the fuck you do with the weapon. Like, is it good at like managing large crowds? Like, the game doesn't tell you all of that, and that's just kind of what I like.
I gotcha. So
I like being left something to figure out myself, and not the game just being like, here's all the information about the item, so because it has 3 uses, and these are the 3 uses that it has.
Gotcha. I'm with you totally. I'm with you totally. So it's like the element, they can tell you what something is and what it does. The line is when they tell you how to use it, or where to use it, or things like that. Like, okay.
It's the application.
The application, exactly. I'm with you. I gotcha.
It's so subjective, and it probably doesn't make sense to a few people that are listening, more than a few. But when something talks down to you like that and is like, oh hi, here's a sword, it's fantastic, it's really good because you have 3 different combos with it, and these 3 different combos can do 3 different things, and that's it, no more. It annoys the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. So like, okay, so press B to jump is fine. But press B to jump. You can attack enemies by bouncing off their heads in this manner, and also
press B to jump to reach higher levels. I think would be the condescending, like, to jump up to something that you wouldn't normally be able to reach. I figured that fucking shit out.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Gotcha. That is in fact the very nature of a jump. Thank you. Okay.
You mean I can't get there by walking?
Right.
What?
Okay.
Like, you got the swim ability. It allows you to swim through bodies of water.
Alright, I'm with you. I'm with you
really?
now.
Okay, so my thing... Well, like 10 or 15 years ago, I would have said co-op, because I have a brother, or stepbrother, that's 1 year apart, 1 year younger than me. We play everything together. That's where I sort of fell in love with the third-person shooter genre, because I used to play military shooters. Conflict Desert Storm was like the best time of my life.
I don't know that one.
It's fucking fantastic. They have it on Steam, I think, but it's probably trash because it's probably a PS2 port. Anyway, that is like the social aspect. Not so much social because I'm not social as shit, but I love the cooperative nature and the sort of the synergy with either teammates or other components or things like that. But I think more recently is I mentioned like story and characters and stuff, but I think like the thing that turns me off the most when I'm looking at a game now is character designs. I think like art style specific to the characters is something that really turns me off. Like when characters look too plain, when there's not a lot of nuance to them, when characters are dressed like very happy-go-lucky, kind of like
yeah, I buy that. I buy that.
Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. Or like, I mean, some other even more subjective stuff. Like, I know subjective is kind of the word of the day in this discussion, but like, I don't like one of my chief complaints about the Souls series is the medieval shit. I fucking hate medieval shit. I hate armor.
Bite your tongue.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm heretical. Like unless it's like a small like pauldron or something, like I'm just not an armor guy. I'm the clock, because it goes to my sort of mobility, speed preference, and playstyle stuff. I love the cloth stuff, and all that. But like even the smaller things, like plain looking, like when games start to resemble reality, is what made, like when I don't see like wacky hairdos or like sort of otherworldly clothing or mechanisms, like that's again, like to go back to Final Fantasy, like that sort of the supernatural mechanics that are in that, where like sort of like mechanics move by energy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's it's not really like, you won't find like a combustion engine. You'll find like an engine that moves on spirit.
It's
shit.
Yeah, it's mana punk. Instead of steampunk, it's manapunk.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like the less it's like everyday stuff I could see, outside of my house, the better. Like and that goes to a preference towards fantasy and not realism.
Sure.
Or what have you. I'm a fantasy guy, so that's me.
I'm with you in terms of the art style too. Like one of the things that sprung to, so you see this in a lot of games. Like if you're just browsing indie games on Steam or whatnot, you see fill in the blank generic anime style type things, and it reminds me of like a very lazy way to change one enemy into another is to change its color, right?
Yeah.
Like it almost seems like people are doing that with art styles in a lot of games. And the thing that drives me batshit crazy, I don't know if this is my answer, but it damn well could be, is the I hate pixel art. I fucking hate pixel art.
Yep.
And if I see a pixel art game, it has such a goddamn battle that is uphill in order to come back and be anything redeeming. I think it's cheap. I think it is lazy, and I think if you want to make a nostalgic game, make it feel nostalgic in a modern way. Don't just lean on some like, oh yeah, games used to be 8-bit. It's just...
Well, there's a couple things to unpack there. I think, well, like, I can appreciate, like, that 8-bit pixel art style, like, as a image.
Sure.
But I don't like looking at it while it's moving. And the nostalgia thing, I fucking hate that too. Like selling games because it's like some other game you play, like in like that concept in any sort of like I went like on a Twitter rant like a while ago, like that. It goes to the same thing like with all these hybrid games. Like a big selling point of Dragon's Dogma, which I actually fucking love. Surprisingly, was like it's like Skyrim meets Dark Souls. It's
totally,
like, okay,
yeah.
I've played Skyrim, I played Dark Souls. What makes me want to buy this fucking game? Like, sell me what this game is. Don't like ride other genres, other eras, whatever.
And it's like those are almost too close together because I remember hearing I actually never played Dragon's Dogma. I'll probably pick it up.
It's coming to PC.
I'll probably pick it up when it comes to PC. But it's one of those things when somebody tells you that it's Skyrim meets Dark Souls, and it's like those two things are already so fucking close together. You can say Skyrim is Dark Souls just without this, or Dark Souls is Skyrim just with a little bit more of this. You don't need some interim thing that bridges the gap between Skyrim and Dark Souls. You can step across that fucking gap. It's like a little like mini crevasse.
Well, yeah, but I think people use that as a PR move.
Yeah, I guess just to draw. Yeah,
it's relatable to the customer, but at the same time, the customer's thinking, "Yeah, I already played both of those. Like, you're gonna have to give me something new." And it goes down. It comes back to like recycled mechanics or something like like encouraging innovation and all that.
Sure.
Bullshit. That's a different conversation entirely, though. Sorry, Canton. Go ahead.
It's a Steam recommended list thing that they supply you with. They go, oh well, you played these two games. Oh right,
yeah,
you'll
totally
be interested in this.
Yep.
I don't particularly hate it because I don't know. I just don't mind it. Like if something says that it's like Dark Souls or that it's like Dragon's Dogma, I can be like, okay, I may be interested in it potentially. Like I don't use that as something that sells it to me, but it puts it on my radar, at least.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I was gonna say, like in the X meets Y type thing, I think it would be so wild to see something just completely far-fetched. Like what would show up on my radar if somebody came along and they were sort of like, it's Final Fantasy VI meets Nightfire or something. Like those are games we called out earlier, and you're kind of like, what the fuck does that look like?
It's Madden 2013 meets Warframe.
Totally, exactly.
It's Final Fantasy VIII's Triple Triad meets fucking Dark Souls.
Oh my god, that would be so wonderful. Like I would check that game out just to see what the hell.
Yeah.
versus
Call of Duty meets Pong. Just bouncing AK-47s across the screen.
Oh my god, yeah, the bullets bounce. Oh my god.
That'd be great.
The co-op contingent is one guy with like one of the old Arkanoid style paddles that like bounces the bullets around to kill as many enemies. I don't know.
Oh god.
So I'd be interested in that. Why don't more
pixel art
companies do
just
that?
kills stuff for you.
Pixel art is kind of a killer. Yeah. It's not an instant death, but I will immediately write it off as being like just kind of lazy, just kind of cheap, and just being kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Not cheap as in budget, but cheap as in cheap thrills.
Like, especially in the landscape of gaming over the past 4 or 5 years, I'd say. I would guess with how indie gaming has become this thing where studios can use Steam, Project Greenlight or whatever to push their games out into the world when previously they wouldn't have been able to because they just didn't have the platform. And there are groups of people that want to push, this game that apes the 16-bit era or whatever, like games like Shovel Knight, where they're meant to be an updated, refurbished version of something that you might have played a long time ago, and it looks much better, but it's still got that same kind of blocky style because it's like, haha, it's pixel art, but it looks nice and it functions really well, and it's a really good game on its own merits.
Sure.
I think what differentiates that game is, or like games like that, is it's a solid platformer that they happen to do in an 8-bit or 16-bit or whatever
that's
art
what
style.
I was just about to say. Like, they have those sorts of games which were done really well, and then there are the ones that were obviously just pushed because it's a 16-bit bullet hell thing that we made because it was kind of cheaper to animate it, and it's just not a good game otherwise. Like, it only runs on the nostalgia.
Exactly.
I remember reading like interviews and reviews and stuff with the people that actually made Shovel Knight, and they were like, we had to like do some serious shit to the engine that Shovel Knight is running in so that it wouldn't look better. Like we had to turn off so much of the automatic like anti-aliasing and all that type of stuff, and just completely redesign parts of the engine because it wanted to make it look like a better game than it actually was, because this is one of those games that runs in like a perfect 60 frames per second all the time. They just expressed this thing where like, we wanted to make something that was like what everybody had already played, but was made really fucking well, and they succeeded.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things too. Like, Shovel Knight is an exception to like the pixel art thing. Shovel Knight is one of those things where you can look at it and you see, like, I feel like you can identify these things just by looking at them. You can look at Shovel Knight and the name Shovel Knight and just the way it looks, and it's kind of like, oh my god, it reminds me of like Ghouls and Ghosts. It reminds me of sort of that throwback feeling, and they're doing it really, really well. And then you can look at a lot of these like RPGs that come out in the indie, Project Greenlight or just, and you're like, this is a fax of a fax of a fax. Like, it is so watered down and degraded and just resting on like some sort of memory of whatever the original picture was.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just kind of petering off like that.
I completely agree, like, with that kind of thing, because I have the same sort of feeling that comes over me whenever I see something that's trying to be Final Fantasy.
Exactly.
Like, Final Fantasy has this certain kind of magic to it, just because of the people that work behind it all the time. Up until recently, they had Tetsuya Nomura for such a long time. And the games just had this certain feel about them, and they have this team that understands what makes a Final Fantasy game feel like a Final Fantasy game. And it's why when I tried to play games like The Last Remnant or Lost Odyssey. Now, Lost Odyssey wasn't a horrible game in my opinion, but it still had me feeling that entire time like, this isn't the thing that you're trying to be. It's
You're a lesser.
It's a
Yeah.
photocopy. You know, it's a photocopy of a photocopy, like you said. Like it's
Yeah.
just, it doesn't feel right. It feels like an imitation. So yeah, I would agree with that kind of stuff. If I had to pick another thing that would just totally kill a game for me, if for some reason that that whole thing about games being condescending were to just be completely knocked out of the ring, if something just looks bad, just legitimately looks like it was made in, you know, Flash, like it was just drawn in Flash and, you know, used like a couple of gradients and it was put out there and it looks horrible.
Like the animations have no keyframes.
Yeah, it just looks like it was shoddily put together. Like it didn't have a lot of time invested in it or effort. Yeah, you can see the duct tape like everywhere, or you can see the engine behind it. Like they just sort of bought the engine and then went, okay, I made a tutorial game and now I'm going to make another game and I'm going to use stock template layouts for the menus and stuff, and I'm not going to use custom fonts or anything like that.
Can you think of a game that's like that? Like what would be an example of that?
I can, actually. Yahtzee Croshaw, the person that does Zero Punctuation, for the Escapist magazine, he does it online. He does really fast-paced reviews that are supposed to be funny. And I find them funny. I watch his channel all the time, because he has a Let's Play channel as well. But he released a game called Consuming Shadow.
Okay.
And it's a roguelike, so it changes every time you play it. Random, just sort of investigation thing about like finding out what, like this. I'm gonna wind it back a bit. An evil's taking over the world and is corrupting part of England.
Okay.
And this is usually done by one of 4 potential possible invading gods. And it's like a real Lovecraftian type themed investigation / side scroller / just sort of puzzly adventure game type thing. And it sounds really cool to me, at least in concept. And the way he explained it is really cool. And seeing people play it is really cool. But when I sit down to play it, it looks so cheap. Because it was so cheap. Because he did it all by himself at home. But
that's not the best excuse, though. I mean, if you look at Dust and
yeah.
Holy fuck, one guy.
But he's got like a whole fucking like actual career. This is just his hobby thing.
Yeah.
Like this was pushed on the green light, and people who were fans of him greenlit it. And now it's out there.
Point taken.
But he's made pixel art games in the past in engines like Adventure Game Studio and stuff like that, and they looked good. Like they weren't the most amazing looking things out there, but they looked good considering what they were made with. But this, just, I want to play it, but I cannot, because it just looks like shit to me. And that is so sad on so many levels for me, because I'm like, how many months has he said he's put into this, and how proud is he of it, and I can see that it's a good game, but just the way that it looks just makes me recoil, and I can't do it.
I know that feeling, but it in a different sense with what previously mentioned, Binding of Isaac. I love that game so much, but I can't play it, not only like for the previously mentioned story, but I'm terrible at it. I'm so fucking bad at it. It's retarded. Like I want to, and like you know that I watch like every video Northernlion puts out and stuff, and that's like the center of his channel and stuff. And I watch every episode. I'm like, oh my god, this game is amazing. I love it. And I go down and play it. I'm like, are you fucking serious?
I'm so shit.
I can't, like I'll die on like the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like over and over again, not like, all right, that's me warming up, guys.
Yeah.
Here I go. Like, I'm bad at it. I'm just bad, and I want to like it so much, and it's so sad.
You like it vicariously.
Yeah, I have to. It sucks.
Isaac
love
is
that game.
so like
especially, yeah. Well, especially since I hate most indie games, I think like Isaac and Nuclear Throne are like the two I like. And it's just bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, I want to like it, but why indie game? Why are you making me so bad at you?
And it's kind of like indie games. I feel like just recently, maybe over the last couple of years, are kind of in the same place as like the music industry or like film industry or any of these industries that once upon a time had these huge fucking barriers of entry. And like technology comes along, like any schmuck can pick up Unity and start fucking around and make like a space physics game or something like that. And it's giving voice to a lot of people who have nothing to say. And I'm not saying that's a bad. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's like very, very relatively easy to make games these days. It's very, very easy to make, at-home recordings these days or home movies these days, and
like us,
get them out. Yeah, totally, and get them out into like the air quote indie scene, and like you can throw your indie label on it, and it's like, oh, it's low budget and lo-fi and quirky and cool, and it's like, well, you got two of those four things right.
It also allows you to make the kind of spiteful remark like, yeah, see, this is why AAA and like the major scene's better, because you have to actually be good at your job to do or to get into the industry, whereas you allow every dumb shit that doesn't actually know how to make anything. Like you make it more accessible, so you get more bullshit.
Yeah.
So
it's just,
whereas like the inverse is true for the like sometimes you have to end up skipping out on talent, but everything is on the objective sense better in like the AAA industry.
like the bar is generally higher.
Yes.
But it's a lot more difficult to get like those breakout hits or like those success stories of the scrapper who made it and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now like the net that you're casting in terms of availability is just so much wider. You're getting so much more.
You're pulling the seaweed with the lobster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Seaweed for miles.
Or the boot.
And the old tire, yeah.
Because you look at these libraries of indie games that come out, and everyone will agree with this, so it's a very easy point for me to make. But for every Binding of Isaac or Papers, Please that you find, there are literally 1,000 just shit games that people have...
Well, minus like the 5 million that are fucking RPG Maker games that for some reason count as actual releases.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And it's also one of those things, like the RPG Maker games I always get a kick of too. Like we don't need to harp on this because we're venturing into negativity territory. But it's it's almost like, people that say, it's like, oh yeah, I've got this idea for a great story. I'm going to sit down and write this great novel or this great, fantasy epic or whatnot. And they tell you the idea and you're kind of like, dude, that's Die Hard.
Isn't everything Die Hard?
Yeah, totally. It's sort of like, I've got this great... I'm going to write, like, the next big fantasy epic. It's going to be so awesome. And it's like, that's not the next big fantasy epic. That is literally The Lord of the Rings.
Or
I was just about to...
Yeah, or it's like fantasy, like Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Cough.
Yeah.
Cough. Eric.
And I think that's cool. I think it's fantastic. I mean, I'm dabbling in all of that shit, and I think it's awesome that people can go out there and you do get those breakout hits, because I think it makes those stories a lot more compelling. But yeah, you just have to put up with the noise in the same way that it's more internet fun. You have to put up with the sea of shouting voices, and every now and again cream rises, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so if I were to say something positive, I'm glad that the scene is there to begin with. Like, I can be negative about all the shit that you see on Steam, and you're like, that was made in RPG Maker, you've used the basic sprites, like, it's awful, it's shit.
Totally.
But then you get something like Papers, Please, and it's this one person's baby that they made over 6 years or whatever.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And it turned out to be fantastic, and it's a hit, and they've been recognized for all the effort and stuff that they put into it, and they've been legitimized, and they've made a name for themselves.
Absolutely.
And without this process, that wouldn't have been possible.
Wasn't Stanley Parable also one of those situations?
I have no idea. I can't say
I don't
with
either.
any authority.
I want to say it was like Greenlight, or it may have not been Greenlight, but I know it was like
Stanley Parable
super
was
small.
Was Greenlight, but I remember in the credits, because you can actually physically walk through the credits.
Right.
There
right,
were
right.
definitely, just more. There was a team working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking no. I mean, like that was one of those success stories that started at the bottom that like got critical acclaim through its storytelling, actually.
Oh yeah, I love Stanley Parable. That was a good game.
Yeah.
Story. Whatever.
But so like going on the opposite end of the spectrum, from all the negativity we just unleashed.
You
my
guys are
God.
wrong. You're so wrong.
So I already talked about Metal Gear Solid 4. I'm not gonna go on here. What did you guys? I mean, you guys have to have a game in mind that just hit
Like
every
what hits
single
it?
mark.
Yeah. What gets it right?
Canton.
Shit, you chose me.
Polly, sorry. Someone.
I'll go. I got one at the rate. I feel like the first.
I can go about Metal Gear Solid 4 again if you want.
No.
If you need some minutes to think.
Polly, please.
No, man. I'm gonna say Dragon Age. Like I love the shit out of that game. It had like in terms of the feels, it had story, it had like I fell in love with those characters. I just remember like wanting to like playing that game so many times in terms of going through it the way that the decisions I would make, and then going back and making every decision I would never ever make, but I just wanted to see what would happen, and then like going through an exhausting dialogue in camp and reloading, and like what happens if I say this to Morrigan, what happens if I tell oh god, I can't even think of the Legolas character's name. Zabrin?
I don't remember.
Who's the dark elf in Dragon Age?
I didn't like the first Dragon Age.
Oh,
I'm one of those
my
guys.
heavens.
No, real quick, if I can interject,
Zevran, that's his name. Jesus.
Zevran, nice. You didn't play Awakening, did you?
No, I didn't.
I think that's weird, because Awakening was the only bit I liked about the first Dragon Age, because Anders was in it, and Anders is best man.
I thought Anders was really interesting in 2.
Anders is good in 2.
Yeah,
holy shit.
This came up as a thing too. Like I never played Awakening because I heard terrible things about it, and I had such a rosy fucking picture of Origins that I was like, I'm not gonna touch this. I am just gonna play this game forever and be fine with it. But I feel like in terms of like the soundtrack, I personally love the medieval fantasy. I love the dark fantasy type stuff. I thought the Grey Wardens thing was just amazingly cool. Their whole history and lore, like I loved it from top to bottom. I loved the characters, I loved the story, I loved the customization in the ways that you can approach situations. I thought it was phenomenal. I think that was the first game in a long time that just absolutely ensorcelled me.
Well, I think it's really interesting, or at least poignant, that you mentioned yours is Dragon Age, because Dragon Age was one of the really few games that I can't play because of graphics. I just cannot do it.
Interesting.
Like the mechanics are fine, although I hate the click and then action happens style of like the RTS almost kind of thing of it. I would be able to deal with it if the character, because graphics like in RPGs, like up to a certain point, like make them believable. And I don't know, I haven't played it in a while, but I remember like even years ago looking at it going, everything looks blurry and pixelated, and I just don't like it. Like what do you even look like? Like I don't even know.
Interesting.
Yeah. I love Dragon Age 2 as much shit as that gets. Like the universe, I think is really cool.
I thought, yeah, I liked 2 a lot. I have nothing bad to say about 2. Like the Hawk legacy and that whole thing. Oh my god, yeah, I thought it was 2 was phenomenal too. I just Dragon Age can do no wrong.
Yeah, and going into 3 real quick sort of exemplifies one, and specifically another thing about that is soundtracks.
Yeah.
How amazing those are to me. You guys might have heard them already. The Bard songs in Dragon Age 3. The chick that plays the guitar.
Oh yeah.
And holy fuck, I sat there like at the computer staring, watching this stupid model just play nonsense for like 45 minutes until like every song was exhausted. Yeah. And more specifically to that is I love vocal tracks on stuff, on games or anime or whatever the fuck I'm watching. Final Fantasy 13 did this. Dragon Age did this kind of in a more in the game sense rather than a direct soundtrack sort of layered on top of the game. Metal Gear Solid 5 has just real quick on Metal Gear Solid 5. If you remember, also in the oval table we did, where I was going on about Garnet or / Dagger.
Yeah.
And I said I love characters that sing.
Oh, okay.
And there's the Quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5, and she hums the entire time, and she has this like song, and she like hit like on fucking point with that. But the vote, because where am I fucking going with this? Metal Gear Solid 5 has just a few vocal tracks in it. I'm sure you guys have heard Snake Eater, like how well that did in the song, or the game Snake Eater, the song Snake Eater. And then they had whatever the fucking name. I'm rambling now, but point is,
characters that sing,
and then vocal tracks on top of that, because like it's like vocals in games. When you put a vocal track on top of it, it relies so much heavier on like how the animations and the mood you leave just before it starts to carry you through the experience as long as the vocal's going. Because unless you're gonna sort of deal with the compression bullshit of like toning down the music when characters start talking and stuff and going back and forth, you really have to carry a scene through body language. I mean, it's a lot easier if it's sort of fight choreography over a vocal track, or under, I guess, a vocal track. But I don't know. I think that's really important, and I think like vocal songs definitely like have their place, whereas they're like, because they're not very common, they're not really used. But when they're done right, holy fuck, they're done right.
When they're done right, yeah.
Yeah. And like, because there's just a certain sort of finesse and pizzazz that you can get from a vocal track, that because it reflects power through a voice rather than, I don't know, it's just another element to bring to the table, since you already have the visuals, you already have the characters that you know, and blah blah. I'm rambling, but I think I don't know, it's really hard to convey that point, but I think maybe I got it across. I don't know.
You know,
Fuck me.
Cricket?
That was a really hard, like, to articulate what I was thinking and putting into words. I hope that made sense. I'm not sure if I did it right, but just moving on. Forget what I said if you need to.
It's alright. I've been sitting here the entire time you've been talking, because like I was listening, don't worry, but I was just looking at these titles that I have in my Steam library. I have almost 300 of the damn things, and
that's too many.
I can't.
How many do you have, Polly?
Oh, I don't know, like 18.
Fuck.
And I can't find a title that really just, fired on all cylinders. I can't find something that I just absolutely loved because I thought it was perfect.
Well, no, and that's different too. Like, when I say Dragon Age, I'm not talking about perfect. Because if I could go back, if I go back and play that game, if I never have to go to the fucking Fade again, I will be so happy. Like, that sucks. That whole sequence
Yeah.
is just trash and garbage. It was fine the first time, but on a second and third playthrough, it's like, oh my god, this is just such a slog and a grind. Like, I have to, if I go back and play through it, I have to set aside one night to just get the fade done, because I won't want to play after it because I'll be too pissed off and angry, and I don't want to do anything leading up to it because that will end my night. And so it's just, it's one of those things to just pass it. So definitely not perfection, but in terms of like the criteria we were talking about, like it to be like just what makes a good game in terms of.
That's so hard though, because I've had so many games that have done that to me. You know, I've had The Binding of Isaac do that to me. I've played nothing but that for days on end. Sometimes I've done that with Papers, Please. Like, I've sat down and played Papers, Please for 14 hours in a row. Just all the way through. Just done that. I played it through 3 times, I think, in one sitting.
Like, what's the game where you kind of like sat back in self-reflection, being like, "Holy shit, this game is so good. It has graphics. It has like." Where you sort of go through in the moment that checklist of what the game has. Have you ever experienced anything like that with a game?
It's gonna be so fucking typical given the community that I'm a part of.
God damn it.
But I felt that way after I finished Bloodborne. I sat back.
Oh, really?
I
thought you were
back.
going to say Dark Souls.
Well, I loved Dark Souls, but I can't remember my first playthrough enough, like well enough, to be like, yeah, this is how I felt right after I finished it, because I played that over such a long period of time and I didn't really appreciate it like properly, because how I understood games was kind of immature back then, even when I played it just a few years ago. But when I understood Bloodborne as I played it, and when I got to the end, I just went, that was an amazing game that I just played. You know, I enjoyed the atmosphere, I loved the music, the gameplay for me was spot on. There was some frame rate issues, but whatever.
Did you get past the Victorian thing? Did you end up liking it, or was it still kind of off-putting?
It completely disappeared into the back of my mind.
Nice.
I completely got past it. I was like, whatever. This is, an interesting world, at least.
That's cool.
I really hate when people try to use the Victorian era as a substitute for an interesting world.
Totally.
If you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
This was a really interesting period of history with cool architecture. Do you remember that? Yeah, well, good, because there's nothing else going on. Yeah. That wasn't what Bloodborne felt like to me. And when I finished that game, I was like, yep, this was a good game. Regardless of how the PvP or whatever turned out, this was a good game that I really enjoyed, and that I will never regret buying. So
GG.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's a good note to end on. Everybody, called something out that was kind of like a nice, resonant, warm, fuzzy memory in a game that just kind of did it right. And there is no wrong answer. I think that's what's so much fun about talking about shit like that. Like, nobody can swoop in and say like, you're wrong, Dragon Age sucked because X, Y, and Z, and it's like, you cannot be wrong.
But this is what I felt.
Yeah, exactly. In saying that, I like this game and here's why, you cannot be wrong. I love that. I love that.
Well, because you remember your experience throughout, rather than like, okay, I have to anticipate other people's arguments and figure out why I do this. Like, you don't have to figure out why shit. It's just like you try and articulate your experience.
There's no. You don't even need to be able to articulate your experience. It can be a gut feeling.
As I demonstrated with the vocal track.
You just No, I think I get you, because like you have. The vocal track is not necessarily, it's different than a soundtrack. It breaks out of the soundtrack because it's a focus piece.
Yeah, well, also, you and I know quite a bit about music as well, so I don't know how well that translates. So
it's fine. It translated fine for the music retarded.
I'm just no. I didn't mean to say that like from a stance of superiority or anything. I just hope that I don't understand music in a way that is foreign to anybody or something. I don't fucking know. I'm trying to be relatable, and in case I don't, I need to offer every caveat and hedge I can.
No, you don't, because there is no right or wrong in this shit. You can say like Battletoads is the greatest game of all time. And somebody
Dude,
can say
that
like,
game was fun.
I totally disagree. I hated that game.
Did you play it in co-op?
Yes, absolutely.
You're an asshole then.
I didn't like
You're
that game.
wrong, Polly. You're wrong.
But I mean, so the thing of it is, like, I absolutely love the shit out of Double Dragon and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So why would I not like Battletoads?
We're talking Sega Genesis, right?
I was actually talking about NES.
Oh, Double Dragon was on NES.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I think there was. There was also another. Okay, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because that's the beauty of it. You can say, like, Kid Icarus is my favorite game of all time, and somebody can say, like, that's fucking weird, but it cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
Love what you're gonna love. That's all there is to it. And on that little bit of silver lining, we'll take it out. Lady Canton, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
I have no idea what the hell is happening now.
I was expecting jazz music to come in any second.
We'll mix that in post.
Nice.
All right, cool. Yeah, let's make our closing remark. You got anything to close on, Kent?
I'd be interested in like knowing what other people enjoyed like as their favorite game. Just a title and a reason why or something. That'd be interesting for me to read. I really don't want to read about how everybody's favorite game was Dark Souls more. So that'd be nice.
But if it is, that's cool too.
But that's fine too.
No, it's not.
I said Bloodborne, so
Yeah, I'd be very curious about that as well. So let us know.
No, I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I would be curious as to what we were talking about in the very beginning, which aspect, the sort of like the divide.
What's your hook? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What's your hook? Was mine's story. Yours is what the fuck was yours? Just to remind everybody that should be our closing. What was it? Where did we end up in this? What makes a game good? That is the central point of the discussion. Mine was story. Let's reiterate here. Polly, what was yours?
I initially said vibe or atmosphere or setting, but that was too broad. So then I kind of
that's fine.
I pared it down to emotional content.
Boom.
And I liked replayability and just cool, sort of hard mechanic stuff.
Cool.
Boom. Let us know yours. Bye.
No, we still got another like 5 minutes of soft, soothing outro.
Oh, please no.
Oh, baby.
All right, cool. We're gonna get out of here. Let us know what you think. Thanks as always for listening and watching. We'll figure out something to put to this or not, and we'll see you next time. All right, see you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.